I'm Alyssa Hasty, and I'm a professor in the Department of Molecular Physiology and Biophysics. So my research generally is focused on adipose tissue inflammation. We are interested in that because inflammation is known to induce insulin resistance. And there's a strong correlation between obesity and diabetes, and we think that the immune system may be playing a role in that association. And when I started my own lab in 2003, my initial intention was to study how obesity increases risk of heart disease and hyperlipidemia. And shortly after my lab began, there were some papers that came out that described the fact that in obese adipose tissue there are more macrophages. And so all of a sudden it kind of clicked for me that studying obesity and diabetes and macrophages would really be an interesting area for me to get into. So you just never know where you're going to go, and we all have hypotheses that we test, and sometimes we're right, but most often we're wrong, and that is actually usually much more interesting to make new discoveries. And some basic science research is way back from any kind of clinical application, but we have to start somewhere, and a lot of times that research then leads to either our own labs or other labs to making discoveries that bring us closer to translation, to coming up with drug discoveries or new therapeutics for human disease. But it's critical for those discoveries to be made by people in the laboratory, not by myself. I have graduate students and undergraduate students and postdocs and a research instructor and lab manager, medical students. They all play a role in helping to make these discoveries. And if it wasn't for their hard work and for their observations and for their persistence, we definitely wouldn't make the discoveries that we have. And so really the most rewarding part of my work is working with the people that are in my lab and seeing them go on to these other amazing careers. I was a director of graduate studies for many years, so I love working with graduate students and trying to advise them. The advice that I would give is to be persistent and to not worry if your hypotheses aren't correct. It's more important that you test them thoroughly and rigorously, and it's not our job to prove anything about biology, but to discover new things about biology. And if you can do that, and if you're excited by it, and if you can find yourself working in a lab environment that is enthusiastic and encouraging, then you can go on to be whatever you want to be. Some students want to go on to run their own laboratories in settings like Vanderbilt, and that's fantastic. But there are many other career paths that are equally important and contribute equally to science as a whole and to our society. So just take the time to find what you're interested in and what you love, and pursue that the best that you can, and don't give up.